What would you do if a single night turned your quiet life into a battlefield for Zariel Kane, a striking black woman hiding in plain sight at a suburban American college? That question exploded into reality when a ruthless biker gang crossed her path and awakened a secret she'd buried deep past as a Navy SEAL with a black belt in Taekwondo. That fateful clash would unravel a storm of vengeance, expose a campus under siege, and transform lives in ways no one saw coming. Hey there, welcome to our channel. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping true story of grit and redemption, drop a comment below where are you tuning in from, and if you're hooked on tales that twist from danger to defiance, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for our latest drops. Could one woman's hidden strength take down a gang of thugs? What risks waited as she fought back? Stick around to find out. You won't. I believe how this ride ends. The rain came down in relentless sheets, drumming against the rusted tin roofs of the dormitories and pooling in shallow craters across the deserted college campus. This was a quiet corner of suburban America, a place where the days stretched long and lazy until night fell, and the roar of motorcycle engines shattered the stillness. Lately, the steel-fanged biker gang had claimed these streets as their playground. They were a pack of leather-clad wolves, tattoos snaking across their skin, thriving on the fear they sweat with every reckless ride through the dark. Students whispered about them in hushed tones, locking their doors as the distant rumble grew closer. No one dared cross their path under the flickering glow of a lone street lamp. A solitary figure moved through the downpour. Zariel Kane, a senior, blended into the shadows with her oversized gray hoodie pulled low over her face. Her dark skin gleamed faintly where the rain kissed it, and her eyes, sharp, unyielding, peeked out from beneath a damp fringe of hair. She was an enigma. On campus, quiet, solitary, the kind of person who slipped through crowds unnoticed. But beneath the loose fabric of her clothes hid a frame forged by years of discipline, a body that carried secrets no one here could imagine. The air shifted as she crossed the empty parking lot, her sneakers splashing through puddles. A low growl cut through the rain. The guttural snarl of engines. Zariel paused, her hand tightening around the strap of her backpack. Headlights sliced through the gloom, pinning her in their glare. As three motorcycles rolled into view, the B riders pulled up in a loose semicircle, tires hissing against the wet asphalt. They were Steel Fang and a Ryer of Trouble, the leader. A wiry man with a shock of red hair plastered to his skull by the rain grinned, his teeth flashing like a predator's. Well, what do we got here? He called, his voice rough as gravel. He yanked a half-empty beer can from his jacket and lobbed it at her feet. It clattered against the ground, foam spilling out in a pathetic arc. Lost your way, sweetheart. His buddies laughed. A coarse, jagged sound that grated against the night. Zariel didn't flinch. Her eyes flicked from one to the next, cataloging them with the precision of a hunter sizing up prey. The redhead gripped his handlebars too tight. Nervous energy. Maybe the second a hulking figure with a skull tattoo crawling up his arm shifted his weight unevenly, favoring his left leg. An old injury, perhaps the third, smaller and twitchy, toyed with a length of pipe dangling from his belt. She saw it all in seconds, her mind a steel trap snapping shut around every detail, but she said nothing, her silence louder than the rain. She's shy. The tattooed one sneered, spitting into a puddle. He leaned forward, his bulk casting a shadow over her. Don't you know it's dangerous out here alone, little girl? Lucky for you, we're the welcoming type. He cracked his knuckles, the sound sharp and deliberate. The twitchy one piped up his voice, a high-pitched snarl. What's the matter, huh? Cat got your tongue. He slid that pipe free, tapping it against his palm with a metallic clink. Maybe I ought to teach you how to talk proper. He took a stepped closer, the rain streaking down his leering face. Zariel tilted her head ever so slightly, a movement so subtle it might have been missed. Her hoodie shadowed her expression, but her eyes glinted cold, calculating like a storm, gathering strength. She wasn't afraid, she was waiting. The air thickened with tension, the kind that buzzed like static before lightning struck for a heartbeat. The world held its breath. "Leave it," the redhead barked, waving a hand. "She ain't worth the hassle." He revved his engine, the roar drowning out the rain for a moment. "Besides, look at her, scared, stiff already." He laughed again, a harsh barking sound, and the others joined in their mockery, ringing, hollow. Zariel finally spoke, her voice low and steady, cutting through the noise like a blade. "Not tonight." The words were soft, almost lost to the storm, but they carried a weight that made the twitchy one falter. His pipe. Pausing mid-tap, she turned, resuming her walk as if they were nothing more than a minor annoyance. Her footsteps echoed faintly, deliberate and unhurried. "What'd she say?" the redhead shouted, incredulous. He twisted in his seat, craning to watch her fade into the rain-soaked darkness. "You hear that? Little thinks she's tough." His laughter boomed again, but it faltered at the edges, tinged with unease. The tattooed one snorted, revving his bike to mask the flicker of doubt. "Crazy chick. Let's roll." Engines snarled to life, and the trio peeled out, tires screeching as they vanished into the night. To them, it was just another game, a fleeting thrill to break the monotony. They didn't linger on the strange girl in the hoodie, didn't wonder why her calm felt more like a threat than surrender. They couldn't know that Zariel Kane was no ordinary student. As her silhouette melted into the shadows, the rain washed away the last traces of their encounter, leaving only the promise of a reckoning they'd never see. Coming, the rain had dwindled to a faint drizzle by the time Zariel reached her dorm, a squat brick building tucked on the edge of campus. Her sneakers squeaked against the linoleum floor as she slipped inside the dim hallway lights, casting long shadows behind her. The encounter with Steel Fang lingered like a bad taste, but she shook it off, locking the door to her small room with a soft click. The space was sparse bed, desk, a single chair, and deliberately unremarkable a shield against prying eyes. She dropped her backpack and peeled off her soaked hoodie, revealing a lean, muscled frame that told a story no one here knew. Zariel wasn't just a senior scraping by on scholarships. She was a ghost from a life left behind. A former Navy SEAL whose name had once been whispered in classified briefings. Her dark eyes, now fixed on the cracked mirror above her desk, had seen things: sand-swept deserts, muzzle flashes in the night, the faces of men who'd never come home. She'd earned her black belt in Taekwondo, not in some strip mall dojo, but in the crucible of covert ops across the Middle East, where every strike had to be lethal, every move precise. Now she was here, hiding in plain sight, chasing a degree and a semblance of peace. But the peace she'd learned was a fragile thing. She sank onto the bed, the springs creaking under her weight, and let her mind drift. It didn't take long for the memories to claw their way back. Her eyes fluttered shut, and suddenly she was there again, boots crunching on gravel, the air thick with dust and cordite, a mission in some god-forsaken corner. Syria. Her team had been ambushed, pinned down in a crumbling village. She could still hear the crack of sniper fire, the shouts of her squad leader as he took a round to the chest. Zariel had moved like a shadow, and silent and swift, taking out 3 hostiles with nothing but her hands and a borrowed knife. The last one had begged, his voice a gurgle through bloody teeth. But she'd finished it. Quick, clean, no hesitation. That was who she'd been. A weapon honed to perfection, her breath hitch snapping, put her back to the present. She stood abruptly, crossing the room in 2 strides to the window. The campus stretched out below quiet. Now the rain, a soft patter against the glass. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the steady thump of her heart. A reminder she was still alive, still human, that life was over. She told herself the seals, the missions, the blood, it was all buried. Somewhere she'd never have to dig up college was her reset, her chance to be someone else, someone normal. But normal didn't come easy. She turned from the cellmal's window and grabbed a towel, wiping the damp from her neck. Her gaze landed on a small duffel bag tucked under the bed, her old gear. A relic she couldn't quite let go inside were the tools of her past. A battered compass, a folded map marked with faded ink, a pair of gloves worn, thin from use. She didn't open, it didn't need to. The weight of it was enough to ground her. Instead, she moved to the center of the room, bare feet silent on the worn carpet. She took a deep breath, then flowed into a taekwondo stance. Legs apart, knees bent, fists raised the first. Kick snapped out a high arc that cut the air with a faint whoosh. Her body moved on instinct, muscle memory kicking in as she spun into a series of strikes. Jab, elbow, a roundhouse that would have shattered. A jaw sweat beaded on her brow, her breath sharp and controlled. This wasn't exercise. It was ritual, a way to keep the chaos at bay. Each motion was a tether, pulling her back from the edge of the abyss she'd climbed. Out of the room seemed to shrink around her, the walls pressing in. As she pushed harder, faster, a final spinning heel kick landed, her facing the mirror, her reflection staring back. Fierce, unyielding, a warrior dressed in a college kid's skin, she held the pose. Chest heaving, then slowly relaxed, fists unclenching for a moment. She saw not Zariel the student, but Zariel the soldier, eyes hard as flint, mouth set in. A line that promised no mercy. She shook her head, breaking the spell enough. She muttered, voice barely above a whisper. She grabbed a water bottle from the desk and took a long swig, the cold liquid grounding her further. This was why she'd come here, to leave that woman behind, to bury the soldier under textbooks and late-night study sessions. She didn't want the fight anymore, didn't want the weight of lives taken or saved resting on her shoulders. But as she sank back onto the bed, the echo of those biker engines rumbled in her mind. Steel. Fang didn't know who they taunted tonight, didn't know the storm they'd stirred. Zariel closed her eyes, her fingers tracing the edge of a scar on her wrist, a memento from a fight she'd won but never celebrated. I just want quiet, she said to the empty room, the words heavy with a longing she wasn't sure she'd ever find outside the rain. Kept falling oblivious to the secrets. It couldn't wash away the campus library, loomed like a silent sentinel under the overcast sky, its windows glowing faintly. Against the late afternoon, gloom. Zariel slipped out from the heavy double doors, her hoodie pulled low as always, a stack of books tucked under her arm. The air was crisp, carrying the faint tang of wet earth from the previous night's rain. She'd spent hours buried in research, trying to drown the restlessness that had gnawed her since the biker run-in. It almost worked until the quiet shattered. A scream pierced the stillness, high and desperate, echoing from the shadowed path beyond the library steps. Zariel froze her head, snapping toward the sound. Instinct kicked in sharp and unbidden, her body coiling like a spring. She dropped the books onto the damp concrete and moved silent as a wraith. Toward the commotion, the path twisted past a row of skeletal trees, their bare branches clawing at the sky, there under the flickering light of a dying street lamp. She saw her Emily. Carter was a blur of blonde hair and wide, terrified eyes, her sneakers skidding on the gravel as she ran. She was a freshman. Zariel vaguely recognized her from a lecture hall. a slight girl with a bright smile that had no place here. Two figures pursued her, their leather jackets glinting with steel fang patches, their laughter a guttural taunt. One clutched a purse, hers no doubt, swinging it like a trophy. "Keep running, princess," the taller one jeered, his voice. "A jagged blade ain't nobody coming for you." Emily stumbled her breath, hitching as she glanced back. That's when she saw Zariel, a shadow stepping into the light. "Help," she cried, voice breaking. "They took my bag." Please, the plea hung in the air, raw and fragile, and something in Zariel snapped. Not fear, not hesitation, just a cold, familiar resolve. She didn't want this fight, but it had found her. Anyway, the biker slowed as Zariel approached, their grins widening into something feral. The taller one, lanky, with a scar slicing through his brow, tossed Emily's purse to the ground and cracked his knuckles. "Look at this," he drawled, eyeing Zariel's hoodie. "Another hero want to play, didn't learn from last." "Night, huh?" His partner, shorter and wiry with a patchy beard, chuckled, stepping closer. "Let's make it quick." "Scar, she's just a kid." Zariel didn't speak. Her eyes locked onto them, reading every shift in their stance. Scar stood loose, overconfident, his way too far forward. Patchy was twitchy, his right hand hovering near his pocket. Probably a knife. She exhaled, slow and steady. The world narrowing to this moment. Emily shrank back, clutching a tree trunk, her breaths ragged. "Please," she whispered again. Barely audible, Scar lunged. First, meaty fist swinging for Zariel's jaw. She sidestepped fluid as water and pivoted on her heel, her legs snapped up. In a spinning crescent kick, the sole of her sneaker slamming into his jaw with a sickening crack. He staggered, eyes rolling back as he hit the gravel face first. Out cold before he even knew what happened. The air froze. The only sound, Emily's gasp cutting through the silence. Patchy gaped, his bravado crumbling. "What the hell?" He started fumbling for his pocket. Zariel didn't wait. She closed to the gap in a heartbeat. Her fist driving into his gut, he doubled over, wheezing, and she grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back in a lock she'd perfected years ago. "Drop it," she said, her voice low and lethal. A switchblade clattered to the ground. She released him with a shove, and he bolted, stumbling over his own feet as he fled into the dusk. Zariel stood still, her breathing even as if she'd just finished a warm-up. The adrenaline hummed in her veins. Song she hadn't sung in too long. She turned to Emily, who stared at her like she'd seen a ghost. The girl's hands trembled as she retrieved her purse, clutching it to her chest. How did you do that?" She stammered, her blue eyes wide with awe and fear. "Who are you?" Zariel adjusted her hoodie, pulling it lower. "Just lucky." She muttered a lie, slipping out easily. She glanced at Scar, still sprawled unconscious, his jaw already swelling. "You okay?" Emily nodded shakily, brushing dirt from her jeans. "Yeah, thanks to you, I thought they'd..." She choked on the words, tears brimming. "Don't think about it." Zariel cut in sharper than she meant. She softened her tone. "Go home. Stay off this path." After dark, Emily nodded again, swallowing aired. "I'm Emily," she said, almost timidly. "Emily Carter Zariel." We didn't offer her name, just a curt nod before turning away. But as she bent to pick up her books, she caught a glint in the shadows. A phone camera held by some unseen student, capturing the whole damn thing. She cursed under her breath. This wasn't supposed to happen. She'd wanted quiet invisibility, not a spotlight. Emily lingered, watching her go, a mix of gratitude and curiosity etched on her face. Zariel didn't look back. The fight that was over, but the ripples were just beginning, and deep down, she knew Steel Fang wouldn't let this light fade. It seemed had other plans. The neon sign of the rusty chain bar flickered like a dying pulse, casting a sickly green glow over the gravel lot, where Steel Fang congregated motorcycles, lined the edge chrome gleaming under the haze of cigarette smoke and exhaust. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of stale beer and sweat. The jukebox grinding out a distorted rock tune. Rex Malone, the hulking leader of the TH gang, sat sprawled in a corner booth, his massive frame dwarfing the cracked vinyl seat. A coiled snake tattoo curled around his neck, its fangs bare just below his jaw, a warning etched in ink his eyes. Dark and mean glared at the phone screen, in his meaty hand replaying the grainy video for the third time on the tiny display. Scar hit the ground. Hard jaw first felled by a single kick from that hoodie-wearing shadow. Patchy's pathetic retreat followed, stumbling like a kicked dog. The clip was short 30 seconds of humiliation, but it had already spread like wildfire across campus socials, racking up likes and jeering comments. Steel Fang's finest, huh? One read, "Guess they're not so tough." Rex's grip tightened, the phone creaking under his fingers. His crew watched from a weary distance, their usual swagger muted. They knew that look, the one that promised blood. "Who is she?" Rex growled, his voice a low rumble that cut through the bar's den. He slammed the phone onto the table, the screen cracking like a gunshot. No one answered at first. Scar sat nearby, nursing a swollen jaw with a bag of ice, his pride as bruised. As his face do no boss, he mumbled through gritted teeth. Some chick in a hoodie came out of nowhere. Patchy slumped against the bar, avoided eye contact, nursing a beer and his own shame. "Fast as hell," he muttered. Didn't even see it coming. Rex surged to his feet, the booth groaning as he rose 6'4", and built like a battering ram. He loomed over them, his shadow swallowing the dim light. "You're telling me," he snarled, "2 of my guys got dropped by some college brat, and you don't even know her name?" He grabbed Scar by the collar, yanking him up. Ice clattered to the floor. "You let her make fools of us on video, and you sit here whining." Scar winced, hands raised. "She's not normal, Rex, I swear. She..." "Shut it," Rex roared, shoving him back. Scar crashed into the table, bottles toppling the bar. Went quiet. Even the jukebox seeming to falter. Rex paced, fists clenching the snake on his neck, flexing with every furious breath steal. Fang wasn't just a gang, it was his empire, built on fear and respect. One girl, one kick, and now the whole campus that was laughing that wouldn't stand. He stopped, eyes narrowing. As a plan took shape, "The blonde," he said, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "The one they were chasing. She's the key." Patchy perked up. "Hesitant, you mean the freshman? Card or something?" Rex nodded, a cruel smile tugging at his lips. "Find her. She knows the hoodie. We squeeze her, we get the other one, then we bury them." Both across campus, Emily Carter sat hunched in her dorm room, the glow of her laptop casting shadows on her pale face. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, replaying the video. She'd stumbled across online. There she was, cowering by the tree, and there was Zariel, calm, lethal, a storm in human form. Emily's heart still raced from the memory, gratitude wearing with unease. She owed that stranger her life. But who was she? The comments below buzz with speculation. Ninja chick Steel Fangs done for, but no answers. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of it. A text from an unknown number. "You'll pay for dragging her into this." Her breath caught hands, trembling. As she reread it, another buzz, a photo. This time her walking to the dorm last night, tailed by a blurry motorcycle silhouette. Panic clawed at her chest. She bolted to the window, peering through the blinds. The street below was empty, but the roar of an engine echoed in the distance, faint and menacing. She grabbed her jacket and ran. that her sneakers pounding the hall tiles. Zariel was her only shot. She'd seen her near the library before. Maybe she'd be there. Again, the campus blurred past as Emily sprinted the cold air biting her lungs. She reached the path where it all went down, panting, and stopped. Short tire tracks scarred the gravel fresh and deep snaking toward her dorm. Her stomach dropped. They'd been watching her, watching her back at the bar. Rex crushed a beer can in his fist, the aluminum crumpling like paper. "Get the boys," he ordered, voice cold as steel. "We hunt the black. Chick, down. Start with the blonde. Break her if you have to." No one humiliates Steel Fang and walks away. His crew scrambled fear and adrenaline, lighting their eyes outside. Engines roared to life, a war cry against the night for Rex. This wasn't just revenge, it was survival, and he'd burned the whole campus down to prove it. The library's clock ticked past midnight, its hands slicing through the silence. As Ariel sat alone at a corner table, a map of the campus spread before her. Her hoodie was off, draped over the chair, revealing the taut lines of her arms as she traced a finger along the paths and buildings. Emily's panicked arrival an hour ago had lit a fuse those tire tracks. The texts, the photo Steel Fang wasn't playing anymore. They were hunting. Zariel's jaw tightened. She'd wanted to stay out of this, to keep the soldier buried, but the soldier was awake now, and she wasn't about to let some biker trash dictate the game. Emily hovered nearby, ringing. That her hands, her blonde hair, a tangled mess from running. "They followed me," she whispered, voice trembling. "They know where I live. What if they come back?" Zariel didn't look up, her focus locked on the map. "They will," she said, flatly, "but not on their terms." She tapped a spot near the edge of campus. The rusty chain bar, Steel Fang's den. Her mind clicked like a loaded chamber. Years of SEAL training, flooding back, recon strategy, execution. This wasn't Syria, but the rules were the same. Control the battlefield or die on it. She stood, pulling a small black case from her backpack. The last remnant of her old life inside was a tracking device. No, bigger than a quarter. It's Maddie. Finished. Dulled from use in dusty war zones. "Stay here," she told Emily, zipping her hoodie back on. "I need to see what we're up against." Emily's eyes widened. "You're going out there alone." Zariel's lips twitched. "Not quite a smile. I've handled worse." The night was still as she slipped out, moving like a shadow toward the bar. The rusty chain squatted under a haze of neon and smoke. Bikes clustered like predators at rest. Zariel crouched behind a rusted dumpster, her breath steady as she scanned the Lot 5. Riders lingered, laughing over beers, their voices carrying threats about the blonde. And that in the hoodie, she spotted a lone bike parked near the edge, scarred chrome fresh mud on the tires. Perfect. With a flick of her wrist, she attached the tracker under the seat, its tiny red light blinking once before, going dark. Step 1. Know where they strike back in the library. Emily paced, jumping. When Zariel returned, "Did they see you?" she asked, breathless. "No," Zariel replied, pulling out her phone. The tracker signal pulsed on a map app. A live feed of the bike saw location, but they're planning something big Friday. Night party at the hall? They'll hit there. Emily paused. "That's 3 days away. What do we do?" Zariel's eyes met hers. "And certain, we get ready." The next morning in a quiet corner of the gym, Zariel faced Emily, hands on her hips. "You need to fight back." She said, "No room for argument." Emily blinked. "Nervous me, I can't. I'm not like you." Zariel stepped closer, voice low. "You don't have to be just enough to survive." She demonstrated a low kick, her legs snapping out with controlled force. "Aim here, knees, shins, then run." Emily mimicked her, clumsy at first, but Zariel corrected her stance, patient. but firm. Next came an armlock escape twist. Pull break, free sweat, beaded on Emily's brow. Her fear giving way to focus. Good, Zariel said. Again later, Zariel tracked down Jake, a wiry tech major she'd met in a coding class. His dorm room was a chaos of wires and screens, but his eyes lit up when she explained the plan. Hack the campus cameras, he said, cracking his knuckles. Hell yeah. I'm in those biker punks. Deserve it. She handed him a list of key spots. Library, path, dorm, entrance, the hall. I need eyes on them, she said. Every move. Jake grinned. Already typing, give me a day, you'll see. Everything. By Thursday night, the pieces were in place. Zariel sat in her room, the tracker app open on her phone. The bike had moved, circling the campus, then stopping near the hall. A text from Jake buzzed in cameras. Live. They're scoping the party spot. 6 guys. Big dude with a snake tat leading Rex. She clenched her fist. The memory of his kind, arrogant, brutal, stirring old instincts. She opened her duffel fingers, brushing the gloves she hadn't worn in years, not yet. She thought, closing it, this wasn't war. Not quite, Emily. Knox slipping inside with a shaky smile. I practiced the kicks, she said. I'm still scared, though. Zariel nodded. Standing fear keeps you sharp. Use it. She checked the tracker again. Still, at the hall Friday, they'll come for you to get to me. We'll be there first. Her voice was still eyes glinting with something fierce. They want to fight. They'll get one outside the campus. Slept. Oblivious to the storm brewing, Zariel stared into the dark. Her mind a battlefield of plans. Contingencies. Steel Fang thought they were hunters. They had no idea they'd just become prey. The campus hall pulsed with life. Under the Friday night sky, its windows spilling light and music into the crisp air. Inside, students laughed and danced, the bass thumping through the walls. Oblivious to the storm brewing beyond the doors, Zariel stood near the edge of the crowd, her hoodie swapped for a plain black jacket, blending in, but never fully part of the chaos her eyes scanned. The room exits corners, the flow of bodies, every detail filed away like a mission. Brief Emily lingered, close her blonde hair tucked under a cap. Her nervous, energy, palpable. You sure they're coming? She whispered, clutching a plastic cup she hadn't sipped from. They're already here. Zariel replied, voice low. Her phone buzzed Jake's text. 3 bikes. At the back, lot, snake, tat, guys with them, Rex. She pocketed the device, her pulse steady. Despite the adrenaline simmering beneath her skin, the tracker had pegged them circling the hall an hour ago, and Jake's hacked cameras confirmed it. This was their move. Loud, brash, meant to terrify. Zariel's lips pressed into a thin line. She turned it on them. The doors crashed, open a gust of cold air, slicing through the heat of the party. Steel Fang stormed in, 6 of them, leather, creaking boots, stomping Rex, led the pack a Goliath. In a studded jacket, the snake tattoo on his neck stark under the fluorescent lights, he swung a baseball bat, smashing it into a glass table with a deafening crack. Shards flew. Students screamed, scrambling back as the music screeched to a halt. Where's the blonde? Rex bellowed, his voice. A thunderclap. I know you're here. Princess Emily froze her cup, slipping from her hands to splash on the floor. Zariel grabbed her wrist, pulling her behind a cluster of gawking students. Stay low, she hissed, her eyes locked on Rex. He scanned the crowd, bat resting on his shoulder, a predator savoring the hunt. His crew fanned out, shoving people aside, their laughter jagged and cruel. Come out, or we start breaking more than tables, Rex roared, kicking over a chair. For emphasis, Zariel slipped through the chaos, her movements deliberate, weaving toward the center she caught. Jake's eye across the room. He was perched near the DJ booth, phone in hand, live streaming. As planned good, she needed this public undeniable. Emily whimpered behind her, but Zariel squeezed her arm. Trust me then. She stepped forward, shoulders, hunched hands, trembling, a perfect mask of fear. I'm here, she stammered, voice pitched high, eyes darting the crowd, parted a hush, falling over the hall. Rex's gaze snapped to her, his grin splitting wide. You in? Snarled recognition. Flaring the hoodie, bitch. He dropped Emily from his sights, lumbering toward Zariel Bat, dragging on the floor with a grating screech. A thought. You could embarrass my boys. And walk away. He loomed over her, close enough for her to smell the whiskey on his breath. Big mistake. He swung the bat up, aiming for her ribs. She moved fast, fluid, a blur of instinct. Her body twisted the bat, whistling past, and she launched a crescent kick, her foot arcing through the air like a scythe. It slammed into Rex's temple with a dull thud, his head snapping sideways. He staggered, eyes glazing, and crashed to his knees. The bat, clattering away the room, erupted gasps, shouts, phones flashing as Jake's stream caught every second. Two of Rex's crew charged, roaring curses. The first, a wiry guy with a shaved head, swung a chain. Zariel ducked the lynx, grazing her hair, and drove an elbow into his gut. Doubled over, wheezing, and she swept his legs, sending him sprawling. The second, a beefy brute with a scar across his lip, came at her with a fist. She sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and twisted it into a lock, forcing him down with a sharp jerk. He hit the floor face first, groaning. The others hesitated, their bravado cracking as Rex struggled to rise, blood trickling from his temple. Zariel straightened, breathing hard but controlled her eyes, sweeping the gang. Anyone else? She said, voice cutting through the stunned silence. The remaining three backed off, hands raised, fear flickering in their eyes. Rex growled, clawing his way up, but his legs buckled and he slumped again. Spitting curses, the crowd cheered, tentative at first, then louder, a wave of disbelief and awe. Emily emerged, shaky but standing, staring at Zariel like she was a myth. Come to life, you did it, she breathed. Zariel didn't respond, her gaze fixed on Rex as security finally shoved through the throng, too late to matter. Jay grinned from the booth, giving her a thumbs up. Live stream views, spiking into the thousand. Steel Fang's humiliation was complete, etched online for all to see. Zariel turned away, slipping back into the crowd as the chaos swallowed her. The fight had been quick, surgical, exactly as she'd planned, but as she melted to the shadows, a cold certainty settled in her gut. Rex wouldn't let this end here. She'd won the battle, but the war was just beginning. The campus buzzed with the aftermath of the party ambush, the live stream replaying on every phone, every screen still. Fang's defeat was a wildfire rumor. Rex Malone, the untouchable giant, brought low by a lone figure in black. By Saturday dusk, the air carried a brittle chill, the sky bruising purple. As students swapped tales of the night before, Zariel kept to herself, retreating to her dorm, the weight of the fight settling like dust after a storm. She'd humiliated them, yes, but she knew men like Rex, pride was their fuel, and she just poured gasoline on it across campus. Emily Carter tried to shake the unease. Clinging to her, the hall's chaos replayed in her mind. Zariel's swift, brutal grace, Rex's crumpled form, but the victory felt fragile. She tugged her jacket tighter, stepping out of the dorm to grab coffee, hoping the routine would steady her nerves. The street was quiet, save for the rustle of leaves skittering in the wind. She didn't hear the engine until it was too late. A motorcycle roared from the shadows. Cutting across her path, Emily yelped, stumbling back as two more bikes flanked her. Their headlights blinding. Rex loomed astride the lead machine, his face a mask of fury, The snake tattoo stark against his swollen temple, the bruise from Zariel's kick bloomed purple. A badge of shame he wore, like a war wound, thought. You'd get away clean, huh? He snarled, voice thick with venom. Before she could scream, a gloved hand clamped over her. Mouth patchy, his wiry frame lunging from the second bike, she thrashed, kicking wildly. But a third figure zip tied her wrists, her muffled cries swallowed by the night. They dragged her to a van, parked just beyond the streetlights. Its engine idling like a predator's growl. Rex dismounted, towering over her as she was shoved inside Taper. He barked and scar jaw still wired with pain slapped duct tape across her mouth, his eyes glinting with petty revenge. Emily's heart hammered, tears streaking her face. As the doors slammed shut, the van lurched, forward tires screeching, and the two campus faded into a blur of terror back in a room. Zariel's phone buzzed the number. She didn't know, she answered, expecting Jake, but a video flickered to life instead. Emily stared back, bound to a chair in a dim, cavernous space, her eyes wide with panic. Duct tape gagged her blonde hair matted with sweat. Rex's voice cut in low and taunting. You took something from me, hoodie girl. Now I got something of yours. The camera panned to his battered face, a sneer twisting his lips. Old warehouse. Off Route 9, come alone, or she's done midnight. The screen went black. Zariel's blood turned to ice. Then fire. She checked the tracker app. The bike she'd tagged was static, pinned at a spot 5 miles out the warehouse, her fists clenched, nails biting into her palms. This was her fault. Emily was bait. Because she dared to strike back, she grabbed her duffel, pulling out the gloves this time, slipping them on with a practiced snap. No more games. Rex wanted a reckoning, he'd get one, she texted Jake. Emily's taken warehouse. Route 9, call the cops, but not yet. Give B an hour. His reply came fast. You sure this is crazy? She didn't answer already, moving. The campus was a ghost town. As she slipped out, the night swallowing her steps, she hotwired a beat-up scooter from the lot. Old seal tricks never faded, and gunned it toward the warehouse, the wind whipping her face. The tracker's dot pulsed on her phone, a beacon in the dark. The warehouse crouched on the edge of nowhere, a hulking relic of rusted steel and broken windows. Zariel ditched the scooter a quarter-mile out, creeping closer on foot inside. Emily's muffled sobs echoed through the cavernous space, mingling with the low growl of biker voices. Rex paced near her, bat in hand. His crew, 5 of them lounging like wolves, waiting for the kill. She'll come, he muttered, tapping the bat against his palm. And when she does, we end her. Emily's eyes darted, searching the shadows, her wrists raw from the ties. She didn't know if Zariel could find her. Didn't know if she'd survive. This Rex crouched, ripping the tape from her mouth with a cruel yank. She gasped, choking out. She'll stop you. She always does. Zariel crouched by the shattered window, breath slow, deliberate. The warehouse yawned before her, a cavern of rusted beams, rotting crates, and shadows so thick they seemed to swallow sound. A single bulb flickered, struggling against the darkness, painting trembling light across the damp concrete. The air reeked of oil and mildew, heavy with the tension of a trap about to spring. 5 figures loomed near the center of the floor, each poised for violence. Rex stood like a colossus, button humped, his neck taut, snake tattoo pulsing with every flex. Steel Fang shifted restlessly beside him, the weight of his own arrogance filling the space. Patchy twitched, chain coiled in his hands like a predator, ready to strike. Ska lingered near Emily, her wire jaw slowing any impulse. But the crowbar in his grasp spoke of brute intent. 2 new grunts guarded the flanks, one with a hammer, one with a tire iron. Emily sat bound to a chair, blonde hair a stark contrast against the shadows. Tears streaked her cheeks, muffled sobs betraying fear and determination. Despite the tape on her mouth, her defiance cut sharper than any blade. "She'll come," she whispered, voice raw, wrists still tied. "You'll regret this." Zariel's gloves creaked as she flexed her fingers, every muscle coiled with lethal intent. Midnight was 10 minutes away, but she wouldn't wait. Emily's life hung by a thread, and Rex's arrogance was her opening. She slipped inside the warehouse, shadow among shadows, each step silent, calculated. The first target moved without warning. The grunt with the tire iron swung wildly, unaware of the silent predator behind him. Zariel's leg snapped out in a low taekwondo kick, knee cracking under her strike. He yelped, collapsed. She followed immediately with a palm strike to his temple, dropping him cold. The hammer-wielding grunt spun, swinging, but Zariel ducked, letting the weapon graze her shoulder. She grabbed his wrist. Twisted hard bone snapped with a satisfying crack. He screamed, hammer clanging to the floor. She silenced him with a knee to the gut, then a sharp chop to the neck. 2 down, 3 seconds flat. Rex's head snapped toward the sound. "What do?" he roared, spotting her as she stepped into the faint light. Pat she lunged, chain whipping through the air. Zariel rolled under it, the lynx whistling past, and sprang up with a spinning heel kick into his chest. He flew back, crashing into a crate with a splintering crunch. Scar lunged next, crowbar raised. His wired jaw slowed his strike, giving her the opening she needed. She sidestepped, locked his arm, and slammed him face first into concrete. Blood pooled from his nose. Another body down. Rex bellowed, charging like a bull. His bat swung for her skull. Zariel le dove, smashing a crate to splinters inches from her head. She rolled to her feet, stance low, coiled. "You're done," he snarled, lunging again. She dodged, letting his momentum carry him past, then struck with a crescent kick to his ribs and a jab to the kidney. He grunted, staggering, swinging back faster than expected. The bat grazed her arm, pain flaring, but she stayed fluid. He drew a knife, blade glinting in the dim light. Slashes came fast, deadly, but Zariel danced backward, closing the distance, grabbing his wrist mid-strike. She twisted, locking his arm, drove her elbow into his forearm. Crack. The knife clattered to the floor. Rex thrashed freehand, clawing at her throat, but she spun behind him, locking his arm higher. "Let her go," she hissed, voice ice cold. A kick to his knee forced him down. One final roundhouse to his head, and he crumpled. The warehouse fell silent except for Emily's ragged breaths. Zariel crossed to the chair, slicing the zip ties with the fallen knife. Emily flung herself into her arms, trembling. "I knew you'd come," she choked out. Zariel steadied her, scanning the unconscious bodies. Not dead. Good enough. Outside, headlights sliced through the windows, tires crunching over gravel. The cops had arrived. Zariel guided Emily toward the window. "Go," she said, boosting her out. Emily hesitated. "What about you?" Zariel glanced back at Rex, stirring faintly. "I'll follow." Emily scrambled into the night as sirens wailed closer. Zariel lingered a heartbeat, staring at the wreckage, 5 men broken by her hands. The warehouse was chaos, but she slipped out like a ghost, just as red and blue lights flooded the scene. The fight was over, but the cost, the past, and the choices still lingered. By dawn, police swarmed the scene, cuffing Rex and his battered crew, their bravado reduced to groans and curses. Rex's snake tattoo mocked him as he was dragged into the cruiser, Steel Fang, Patchy, Scar, all defeated in one night. The local news blasted across screens. Mystery student thwarts. Biker gang kidnapping. Zariel Kane, though unnamed, remained the ghost at the center of it all. She slid back to her dorm before the sun fully rose. Her arm throbbed where Rex's bat had grazed her, but she ignored it. Gloves stuffed back into the duffel. Knife left behind. Anonymity was her shield. She sank onto the bed, adrenaline draining like water through sand. She hadn't asked for this, didn't want the spotlight, but fate had other plans. Zariel crouched by the shattered window, breath slow, deliberate. The warehouse yawned before her, a cavern of rusted beams, rotting crates, and shadows that swallowed sound. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting trembling light across the damp concrete. The air reeked of oil and mildew, thick with the tension of a trap, ready to spring. 5 figures loomed near the center. Rex, a colossus of rage, button humped, snake tattoo pulsing with every flex. Steel Fang shifted, restless. Patchy twitched with a chain. Scar lingered near Emily, wired jaw, slowing him but crowbar in hand. 2 grunts guarded the flanks, one with a hammer, one with a tire iron. Emily sat bound, blonde hair stark against the shadows. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her eyes burned with defiance. "She'll come," she whispered, through raw, trembling lips. Zariel's gloves creaked as she flexed her hands. Midnight didn't matter. Emily's life did. She slipped into the warehouse, shadow among shadows, each step silent. The fight erupted in a blur. The tire iron wielding grunt never saw her leg snap out in a low kick. His knee collapsed with a yelp. A palm strike to the temple sent him to the floor. The hammer swung. She ducked, twisted his wrist until bone cracked. He screamed as she dropped him with a knee to the gut, then a precise chop to the neck. 2 down. 3 seconds. Rex's roar echoed. Patchy lunged, chain whipping. Zariel rolled under, sprung up, spinning heel kick into his chest. He crashed into a crate, wood splintering. Scar swung crowbar, slowed by wires. She sidestepped, slammed him face first into concrete, blood pooling. Rex charged, but raised. She dove as it smashed a crate, inches from her head, rolled to her feet, coiled. "You're done," he snarled, lunging again. Crescent kick to ribs, jab to kidney, knife drawn. She grabbed his wrist mid-strike, twisted, elbow into forearm. Knife clattered to the floor, clawing at her throat. He fell to a final roundhouse. Crumpling, warehouse, silence, broken only by Emily's ragged breaths. Zariel sliced zip ties. Emily collapsed into her arms. Outside, headlights flashed. Cops had arrived. "Go," she urged, boosting Emily through the window. "What about you?" Emily hesitated. Zariel glanced at Rex, stirring faintly. "I'll follow." Emily scrambled into night as sirens wailed. The fight was over, but shadows lingered. By dawn, police swarmed the scene. Rex and crew cuffed, groaning. Steel Fang shattered in one night. Local news splashed. Mystery student foils. Biker gang kidnapping. Zariel Kane, unnamed, vanished into the crowd. Hours later, Emily and Jake launched self-defense classes in the gym. Feeling it. Knowledge was power. Emily taught the low kick Zariel had shown her. Zariel leaned against the wall, arms crossed, guiding silently. Students whispered, eyes wide at the hoodie girl in the back. She said nothing. Her past missions buried deep, shadowed, untouchable. Weeks passed. The gym filled. Emily blossomed with quiet confidence. Jake recording, turning each class into a movement. Zariel's presence became a subtle anchor. Occasionally, she corrected a stance or showed a wrist, escaped small gestures, enough to ignite courage. One evening, Emily approached her. "You're good at this, helping people." Sael Schrockel, eyes dark. "Not my thing," she murmured, but a flicker of a smile betrayed her. Outside, the campus hummed. Steel Fang was fading into rumor. Night air, cool against her skin. Zariel walked alone. It's a shadow of protection. She had never sought heroism, never craved recognition. But watching Emily guide students, hearing laughter, seeing confidence bloom, she understood real strength wasn't in defeating enemies, but in empowering others. The soldier in her remained vigilant, but now it listened, learned, and guided from the shadows. Zariel Kane, hoodie pulled low, moved through campus like a whisper unseen, yet profoundly felt. A silence protecteur, leaving courage and resilience in her wake. The fight was over, but the impact endured. In quiet moments, she realized some battles weren't fought with fists, but with the courage to stand, to teach, and to protect. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.